Hello, welcome to DIY Ready. My name's Lisa and I'm going to show you how to make this makeup bag. It's fabulous. It's got a hot pink color on the inside. This whole project is going to take you about an hour from start to finish. So to make this makeup bag, you will need a fabric, a lining in a bright, fun color, a sewing machine, a tape measure, fabric scissors, snips, which are mini scissors, a seam ripper. If you've never sewn before, this will be your best friend. A zipper, any length between 6 and 10 inches will be fine. A pencil, pins, a ruler, and also an iron and ironing board. You can find all these materials at your local craft store. And as always, you can find detailed written instructions on how to make this project here on DIYready.com. First things first, you need to make sure your machine is completely ready for sewing. I used pink thread to match my fabric, and same with the bobbin thread underneath. I wanted them to match. If you've never threaded your machine before, just look at the instructions and you'll be able to follow along. It's fairly simple. If you've never threaded a machine and are having issues, we do have a detailed tutorial on the site that you can check out. Now we're going to cut our fabric. For the lining, you want it to be a little bit larger than the bag. That's so it'll fit inside of the bag without being tight. The lining is going to be 15 by 13 inches. This actually is a scrap I found. We're going to measure out 15 one way and 13 the other way. My fabric is, the stitches actually are in line. So I'm using the edge of this fabric as my guide. So that's 15. We're going to draw a line. And then 13 the other way. And measure on the other side so they're equal. We don't want any slanted angles. And same thing for the 15 inches. We want to make sure both the top and bottom reach to 15 inches. So that'll be here. Draw a line so it's straight. Now I'm going to cut it. Fabric scissors are amazing. They have this flat edge here so that you always cut straight. Just hold it underneath your fabric and cut forward. There's one. There's two. All right, 13 by 15 square rectangle. Now we're going to cut the fabric the same way, but it's only going to be 14 by 12, giving ourselves an extra inch to work with on the lining. Notice how the pattern isn't consistent. So, you know, if I was going to make a bag, would I want it to be boring and plain white? Maybe. But today, I want to work with this fun floral pattern. This looks nice. So now I have my lining and I'm just going to place it over just to kind of visualize my area. This has nothing to do with your final project, this whole lining thing. I'm just visualizing. So I think I like this segment as my bag. Now I'm going to bring out my tape measure again and my ruler. I'm going to find a segment that's 12 by 14. So I know that this is 15. So let me just start my ruler here. Pull it out. Don't need that. Oops, left some fibers behind. And let's just measure 14. Where's that pencil? So start at 1, make a dot, 14, make a second dot. Now notice how also these dots need to be equal distance from the edge of my fabric so that we're always cutting on a straight line. Now from this point, I want to measure 12 inches up. for our other side. 12 inches. Now let's see how well we did and see if that's actually straight. This should be 14. Perfect. So now I'm just going to draw my straight lines and cut it. Okay. So now we have both our lining and our fabric. So pretty. The next step is to attach your lining to your fabric so we have a whole piece to work with. You want to put right sides together. That means this is the right side of the fabric, this is the right side of the lining. They're looking at each other. Set your one side along the edge, along the short side, and pin it in the middle. You want it to be against the edge. And stick your pins in. You can put as many pins in as you want, however many you feel safe with. I'm just gonna work with 5 for now. And then you wanna pin the same thing to the other side, but we aren't pinning these guys yet. Just the front and back, or the top and bottom. Then, notice how this doesn't quite reach. This guy comes up. Perfect. That's what you want. This is gonna happen when you pin your other side. This is gonna come up. It's only because this part is shorter. That's what you want to happen. You want your lining to be bigger than your fabric, so it all fits inside once the bag is complete. Now we're ready to sew. So we're gonna sew the edges we just pinned. So I'm gonna place my needle. I'm gonna start my stitch where the fabric meets the lining. Put my presser foot down, back stitch to start, and then as I sew, I take the pins out, because the pins are only there to help keep the fabric in place. Here's one side done. Now we're just gonna sew the other. So now that we have these two sides stitched together, we need to press them so that they're nice and flat and smooth to work with. So first, we're gonna press the seams open. Always test your fabric before ironing it. You never know what might accidentally melt. Okay, so you're gonna wanna press this seam open with the iron. Nice and simple. Repeat on the other side. Okay, now we're turning the fabric inside out. Look at that. You can't see the seam. Now we want to iron this side so that the white just peeks over the pink, but we basically just want this fold to be flat. There we go. Nice and crisp. And then repeat on the other side, same exact thing. Fold over and iron it so that you have a beautiful, crisp line again. Our next step is to put the zipper in. So these are the two sides you're going to be working with next. So now we have pins, zipper. This guy, as you can tell, does not extend the length of the bag, and that is totally okay. We're just going to put him in the middle. If your zipper does extend the length of the bag, that's fine too. As you can tell, with the zipper we used before, it's a difference of the zipper going over the corners or just being on top. The zipper, I want it to be face up, and I want the lining of my fabric to be touching it. So line up your zipper like this in the middle here, so that the edge of your fabric touches the very center of the zipper. And then we're gonna pin it in place. Take your pin and do the two ends first. So here you can see we've got the zipper and the fabric. And we're just gonna sew it all together. So you're probably gonna have a zipper foot in your sewing compartment or lying around your sewing lab somewhere. Pop the regular presser foot out, put the smaller zipper foot in. This machine just pops in and out. Some machines have a little knob that you have to turn. So notice how this zipper presser foot, it's not as bulky as this regular one. This is missing, and that prevents the bulk of the zipper, which I'm hiding from you. This guy, this would be so annoying to sew over, so this guy is way more helpful. All right, and now let's zip it back up. And we have one side of a zipper all together. Now we just have to sew the other side. It's gonna be a little trickier since we have no more fabric to work with, but that is just fine. So fold your bag. This guy can go in the center, that's gonna give you the most room to work with. And then we want to make sure that these two sides line up here on the top and bottom. Now your zipper is gonna hide away right in this crack once I pin it in place. So let me begin by pinning the top and bottom together. All right, so we've pinned both ends of the zipper into the fabric. Now I'm just gonna unzip it for ease of accessibility and pin the rest of the guy in place. Woo. Okay, we've got zipper number 2. And away we go. Okay, well, look at that. I'm gonna zip it up so you can see what it looks like. Zoop. Gorgeous. So easy and fun, right? Now, since this zipper was a little short, he was on the short side, I'm gonna pull my fabric inside out and finish the top edge myself with the sewing machine so that it'll be completely encased. Gonna take this zipper foot off. We don't need him anymore. Thank you. Gonna put the new one back on. Got one side. To do the other side, I'm just gonna unzip it a little. So now we've closed the entire thing with a stitch. We stitched here and then we stitched the edges shut. So that's what it looks like. Now we have to work on the sides. So to do that, once again, let's turn it back so that the pink is on the outside. But we don't want to work with our lining right now. So we're gonna pull it back again. So I'm just folding it under itself so it's out of the way. If you need to, pin it so it stays out of the way. All we want right now is to work on our outside fabric. So take one side, and with the seam you just created in the center, you want to put the back against the front so that the center remains in the center. As you can see, I'm going to do that on a table. So here's this in the center. Now let's pin it so it's easier to work with. Pin both ends, pin the middle, and sew. We are going to catch some of this lining, and that's okay. Catch as little as possible. Here's our stitch line. Now let's go. Okay, there's one side. Gorgeous. Repeat on the other side. Pull back the lining. Take out the unfinished edge of the outer fabric and place it flat so that the center seam is against the middle of the back. Place it flat to the best of your ability. We're going to pin it in place. Okay, well, now let's sew that up as well. So here we have the complete sewn edge. Now that we have those two lines, we're going to make our corners of the bag. Like this. See how fun that is? It's a little square. We're gonna make that little square. Now we're gonna iron the corners. So to do that, first, okay, this might be a little tricky. Take one side with your left hand, one side with your right hand, and pull. See how I did that? If you've ever done origami, you'll be like, oh yeah, that's what they do. So you pull out the corners, so that your seam is now in the middle. Push it to the side. Lay your corner flat. And take your iron and press it. Irons help hold things in place. There's one. Repeat on all four sides. Taking the two sides by the front and back with my left and right hand, pulling it, finding the point, putting the seam to one side, pressing it with an iron. Boop, boop, boop. All right, front side, back side, left hand, right hand, pull. Woo! And pull and press. We could write a song if I was good at that sort of thing. And press. Now you have four little corners. You got to stitch them in place so they stay. Let's go back to our machine. So here you can see 1.5 inches from the corner. That's where I want to place my needle. Okay? Okay. Just realized you guys can't respond to me. A nice straight line, as you've been doing. Repeat. All right, I just sewed all four corners. It kind of looks like a little Muppet right now. We need to turn this inside out with the zipper that you've actually entrapped in your fabric. So if you can't get to it, just reach your hand inside, pull the zipper from the inside, and use, your other hand to pull it down. Now we want to take the bag and turn it inside out so we can see the corners we made from the outside. They look pretty good, pretty tight. I'm poking them out with my fingers. Same with the other side. Poke out what you can with your fingers. So now you have a cool makeup bag. The lining isn't done, but you can see the shell pretty damn well. Let's close up our lining. So take your bag, fold it inside out again, and to enclose the lining, you get to sew one side and hand stitch the other side. Before you do that, clean up what you can of the outside fabric, because you're never going to be able to touch it again, ever. So now we have a bag, a lining, and we want to turn not the bag inside out, but the lining inside out. So only pull the lining part through. I grab the end and I fold it under itself. Okay, so now you'll see that the lining is kind of a separate entity from the fabric on top. This is how you're gonna shut one end of the lining. Same way you did before with the outer fabric. Put the seam in the middle, find your corners, lay it flat, pin them in place. And sew. So here's a little secret. It's gonna look a little awkward or it's gonna feel a little awkward and bulky to sew, but no one's gonna see the inside but you. So it doesn't matter. Just hold back this fabric as you did before, because you don't want it getting caught up in the lining. Okay, so we sewed one side shut. Excellent. Time to turn it inside out again and wave goodbye to these corners because you'll never ever see them. We're flipping it in reverse. And now we're gonna close this side by hand. Take these guys, turn them under, just a ½ inch, nothing much. Pin them so they stay shut while you prepare your thread. You want to make sure this is in the middle, the zipper piece. So take your needle. I threaded mine with pink thread to match. And you know, tie a little knot at the end. Whoop. And now use the slip stitch to close up your very last edge. Finishing it up, gonna tie a little knot so that the thread doesn't come out. Whoop, whoop, and pull. We're good. Are you ready to actually turn it inside out for the last time? Doing this thing with my hands, poking out the corners. There's one. There's the other side. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I present the Zip Close Rectangular Prism Makeup Bag. We have one more thing we need to do, because you're like, what is going on here? Why does this look like a lump and this look like a nice prism? Because we haven't ironed it yet. All we have to do is press our edges so it looks like an actual bag. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just taking every single edge, every time there can be a corner, and I'm just gonna press it for a few seconds and repeat. The whole thing is a rectangle, so every edge is flat and every edge has a corner. All right, guys, that's it. Your very own makeup bag with gorgeous crisp corners, a fun hot pink inside, or whatever color you might have chosen. I'm gonna fill this up with lipsticks galore, and I can't wait to use it. And I hope that you have the same luck with your bag. Thanks for stopping in. My name's Lisa from DIY Ready. Go ahead and check out the rest of our site. We've got a ton of great stuff for you. See you next time. I'm going to show you how to make a curtain. It's very simple, very little sewing required, and it'll only take you an hour or less.